to be a part of everything that we're doing here. So Laral is our guest today, and we're going to be going to her with some questions around mentorship. She's helped so many people. I also want to welcome Kimmy. We're glad you're here. Laura Wilde was our guest last week, and she was or 2 weeks ago, and she was incredible. And we've asked her to be here with us as often as she can. So glad she's here. So we'll definitely be going to her. Brandon, always great to see you, man. Has so much great stuff on Instagram about leadership and just so much positive mindset stuff. I love it, Brandon. I love what you're doing. Brian Harrington, who is Kevin's son and works with Kevin and helps vet the deals, and is one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to creating win-wins in businesses. And then lots of other friends that are up here too that we're going to hear from: Brad, Kylie, Athena, Nick, Vishal, David, Haley. Glad all you guys are here. We see a couple other friends, and we'll pull you guys up here as we kind of build out this stage. But just want to welcome all of you. And every week that we're here, we take notes because there are gems being dropped here. Frank McKinney was here last time, and Kevin was dropping gems, and Frank was dropping gems, and the week before that, Laura was our guest, and she was dropping gems, and of course, Kevin and Mark are always dropping these gems, and then everybody started pitching in. So we want to really get the mic moved around today because there's so much value here. And so much value has been created that we have been taking these notes, turning them into almost like an ebook every single week. So if you want the notes to this session, just click on my bald head, shoot me a DM that says Kevin Notes, and we'll get that right over to you. And then also, Mark, there was one other place that we were directing to, right? Kevin.club, and tell them what they can do there.
Yeah, Kevin.club. Well, basically, that's just a way to really connect inside of Kevin's ecosystem. His son, Brian, set it up, and there's so many people that have been reaching out, and they want to connect with Kevin. They want to, have follow-up beyond Clubhouse, and so Brian Harrington set that up. And so Kevin.club is a place to go to really get connected to the ecosystem of Kevin Harrington. And look, I mean, it's real. Kevin and Brian can talk about this. I mean, we look at deals all the time, and deals come in from all different places. They come in through Clubhouse. They come in through Kevin.club. They come in from the side. If it's a good deal, we'll take it from Pigeon Express, won't we, Kevin?
I love it. I love it.
Yes, sir.
And you never know where the idea, especially in Clubhouse, and in a format like this, you never know who's in the room. You never know who's in the audience. You never know who's listening. And so much information gets passed here. So yeah, absolutely. And this is a great interface for the deal side of things and for the sharing, which is what we're getting into today. So again, welcome everybody to Mentor to Millions. Make sure you're hitting Kevin.club for all things Kevin Harrington, and for the pitch rooms that we're going to be doing and some other opportunities in addition to this room. You're going to know about it when you go to Kevin.club and are notified there. So make sure you're doing that. Again, shoot me a DM if you want the notes to this session. We'll send you the notes. Just shoot me a DM that says Kevin Notes, and we'll get that to you. So I want to start out because we usually throw out a couple questions here in the beginning, and then we open it up to the panel members and the other moderators here. So I usually throw out a couple questions to start. And so I'd love to throw out this question, and I'd love to go to Kevin, and then I'd love to go to Laral, and just get your take on this. There are a number of traps that we as entrepreneurs, as leaders of organizations, even as mentors, there are traps that you can fall into, right? And then as mentors, there are traps that we help our mentees, or the people that we are guiding, the people that we're teaching, the people we're mentoring. We help them avoid traps, right? What is a trap that you have helped one of your mentees avoid, or something you've helped them overcome? One of those classic entrepreneur traps, or Kevin, as you've helped people, release new products, what are the traps that they commonly fall into that you've helped with? Laral, as you've helped people reach a higher level of financial intelligence, what are the common traps they've fallen into that you've been able to help them with? So I'll just throw that question first to you, Kevin, and then to you.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Matt, and good to have you back in full this week, Matt. Last week I know you had some voice issues, but you're sounding great today. Looking forward to a great session.
Thanks, buddy.
So I deal with a lot of startups, and so I come out of the product world from years back. So I've been dealing with advertising agencies and television media companies for many years. So, north of 35 years, and so oftentimes a media company wants to get their clients to spend a lot of money, right? So, I've seen startups where they're the company to invest $100,000 in, let's say, a media test. Okay, so for a big company, that's not a lot of money. But if you're a startup and you don't have a lot of cash, it isn't whether it is a lot of money or not necessarily, because it boils down to this. When we test media, we can test $3,000, $5,000, certainly no more than $10,000 worth of media. And when I talk about media, in the old days, it was television. It was ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Lifetime, the cable networks, etc. And so it was mostly that. But now, today, media includes Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, etc. So I saw a client spend $100,000 and they generated $10,000 in total sales. Well, they would have found out when they spent $3,000 and they only did $300 in sales that it's not working. So why spend the other $97,000? Okay, or let's say you had to maybe get the $5 or $10 grand to really see what the numbers were. But I have a phrase: test before you invest. So spend $3,000 to $5,000, no more than $10,000 on the front end to learn what your results are, and you could save yourself the other 90, because if it's not working, that spot, you need to change the creative. Getting more media isn't going to change the results typically. You need to change the creative. So that's one of the things that I caution people on. And people are ready to write that check to the media company. And wait a minute, hold on. You don't need to spend $100,000 to get a test. Let's talk $5,000. So that's a big thing that I see out there in the market, and one that I just go back to my test before you invest, my cheaper mentality. So thanks for asking the question, Matt. Good one.
Yeah, no, well, that's one of those traps that if they fall into it, that can end the party before it even starts, right? I mean, that can kill a product before it even has a chance to lift off, because boom, you sunk it. It wasn't the right thing or the right strategy, and you can't get those ad dollars back. It's gone. So
yeah, and sometimes all their money is gone too, because
that's what I'm saying. All the capital is gone.
The people figure, on 100,000, we're probably going to generate hundreds of thousands in sales, so we're going to have all the cash ready to do the next round. But no, if it's not working, you're losing a lot of money, and you may lose enough that you've taken all your budget gone, your whole budget's gone, and then what am I going to do from here?
Yeah, it becomes a very expensive test. So I love that. So yeah, we're talking about traps that we fall into, or traps that as a mentor you've helped your mentees or your students stay away from, help them overcome. And Laral, you've helped so many people. For those that don't know Laral Langemeir, she creates millionaires, and that's literally creates millionaires and helps people reach that higher level of financial IQ. She's a real estate investor. She's an oil investor. I mean, she's into lots of different things, but really is into and has a passion for helping people reach that next level in their life and business. So Laura, I'd love to come to you with this same question and just ask, what are some of those common pitfalls? What are some of those things you've helped them overcome that you see maybe that are common traps with the people you've been able to help and people you've worked with?
Absolutely. And thank you. And it's so great to be here. I just want to acknowledge you, Matt. I mean, you've been my Clubhouse mentor, and I just look forward to our relationship. And Kevin, it's always great to be with you and Brian, from doing a book together and traveling with you, and just you're brilliant. So I appreciate you guys both. So I have kind of two that I want to speak to. I want to speak to those who maybe aren't millionaires or new millionaires, and I see it all the time. In fact, I was just mentoring somebody this morning, and it's, that typical analysis paralysis trap. And they're so, I use this metaphor. My background is also in fitness. So I use this metaphor of getting in entrepreneurial shape. And their entrepreneurial muscles are so small and atrophied, they just can't see what we see, which is why mentoring is so powerful. And, he's got this amazing tech business, and he's going to kill it by his analysis. And I think so many beginner folks kill their dreams by the over-analysis and thinking it has to be right and over-controlling it. In fact, in one of my books, I wrote a whole chapter called, that perfection's poverty. You're never going to get it right. There's the good enough principle. of that 80-20 rule. So the analysis is that's just over and over and over in so many situations where they're overthinking. And the truth is they don't have enough experience to think about what we can see as mentors. So I think that stretch is always a trap. But on the more advanced side, the trap I see a lot with folks that are raising capital that haven't done a lot of capital raising, they're so, I might use the word scared or hesitant to get into debt and to use debt as a convertible structure of raising capital. And it really kind of goes back to them. The way that I end up mentoring them is trusting themselves and trusting the project. Like I'm coaching somebody right now going into $20 million of, it's a family office, it's convertible debt, and the valuation and the refi will be 5 times that, but it's trusting their execution of the team to go that far into debt. So even if it's $1 million for some people, that convertible debt structure scares the heck out of people. And if you really think about using other people's money, it's one of what I call good debt is one of the greatest tools to become a multi-millionaire, if not billionaire. And so it's kind of a combination of those, Matt, is the analysis on the smaller side, and then just that, do I trust myself to perform and execute at the level that I'm going to go into convertible debt? Because then you don't have to get back with anyway. So it's
and I can relate to that. Yeah, I can relate to that first one that you're talking about, especially, and I think a lot of people probably can. Analysis paralysis, right? When I first started in real estate investing, just analyzing the deals, I would sometimes just overanalyze, and really what I was doing was procrastinating out of fear, right? And so that's what was going on there. And so somebody like you, Laurel, and then somebody like Kevin, obviously in the product launch world, and the as seen on TV world, you guys have this unique opportunity to help other people go where you've gone before and to see those pitfalls. And we talked in in weeks past about a good mentor has been on the path before and shines a light, so you can see where you're going, and that's kind of the concept we're talking about. So I love that, and we're talking about traps, and the question was traps that you help other people avoid as a mentor. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in here because
after you, I want to go to Laurel Wilde, because she helps obviously high performance athletes, NBA players, avoid common traps, right? So after you, Mark, I'd love to go to Laurel.
I love
to ask her. Yeah.
I hang on every word that she says. I'm so thankful that she's here, and can't wait to hear what she has to say too. But I got to throw something down, and that is I want to actually share with everybody that the genesis for this room, Mentor to Millions, was actually based on a book that Kevin and I wrote together. We got it out last year called Mentor to Millions. It became a bestseller, and then we kind of parlayed that concept of what if we could mentor lots of people through Clubhouse, and that was the spirit of this room. And Matt, you've really helped that come to life with all of our other friends here as moderators. And so, but one of the lessons that we talk about, and we do a deep dive in the book Mentor to Millions on this, is a concept of a dream team. And one of the biggest traps of entrepreneurs is that they actually hire who they can afford. And why is that a trap? Because it sounds like exactly what you should be doing and what 99% of all entrepreneurs do. The problem is that hiring who you can afford is like hiring from the rearview mirror. And that's why it's a trap, because if you're doing $1 million and you can finally afford to hire somebody and you hire $1 million employee, you're not going to do $2 million. So what we talk about and what I learned from my mentor, Kevin, is that you put a dream team together and you hire who is going to take you where you need to go. You hire the $10 million CFO or the $10 million head of marketing CMO. In fact, he told me one time he would rather have a $100 million CFO for 10 hours a week than a $1 million CFO for 110 hours a week. And that concept is really, stuck in, but it's a common trap. And there's lots of creative ways, and he shares a lot of those ways in the book on how you can actually get those people onto your dream team without having to pay a lot of money. So it's a very common trap, and you absolutely want to learn from people like Kevin and people that are on the stage how you can pull this off. But it is possible for early stage entrepreneurs to surround themselves with a dream team. And that's part of what we talk about in the book, Mentor to Millions. And Kevin and I, as part of this room, I'll throw it out there, Matt, that we're willing to give an audio copy of Mentor to Millions. If you haven't read that book, you can just DM me and put MTM, and we'll give a Mentor to Millions audio version of the book. That's Mark. That's what I've got to say.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Mark. And Laura, I'd love to go to you with this question too. And what are some of those common traps that you help your clients avoid, and some of these high performance athletes that you work with, a different world than a lot of us work and live in, but obviously lessons we could take. Would love to hear from you.
Yes, thanks, Matt. This is Laura Wilde, kissing my basketball up here, and I'm so honored to be in this room. I get so much value here, so thank you. And one of the things, and it's funny because I feel as if the athletes end up really being so much like people in corporate America or in sales or entrepreneurs. And one of the things I often come across is by the time they ask for help from me, they've already gone to the negative thinking. And so once they're in negative thinking, they're now operating from their emotional body. And that blocks all kinds of good for them. So I ask them to start, I have them start asking big questions like, hey, and don't ask questions like, why me, or why isn't coach playing me? Because you'll get answers to every question you ask. And so I have them ask bigger questions like, what is the nature of being an all-star? And I ask them to ask questions that aren't about scarcity, because it's so easy to get stuck in scarcity and think there's not enough. When you're an athlete, you're sharing minutes with other athletes, and you're also worried about your body, your physical health, your family. So I have them really start to think bigger to get out of the emotional body. I mean, that's where we hold all of our fear, our sadness, our anger, worry, and our grief. So I have them step outside of that, outside of the mind, because the mind, right, can really block us from our highest good, and start asking questions that our soul might want to know the answer to. So our mind is going to try to block us, but our soul's going to see what is impossible is truly possible. And the mind might think things are impossible. They're actually possible if we focus on going beyond where we've gone before, because yesterday is not the answer to a better tomorrow. So that's my answer. I'm Laura Wilde. I'm done speaking.
I love it. Laura, thank you so much. And I want to come back to you with some other questions we're going to have. But, man, that was awesome, and appreciate you being here with us. So, we've been talking about traps that we help our people, our students, our communities avoid, right? And how we do that as a mentor. And that was really valuable hearing from Kevin and Mark and Laurel and Laura. I want to go to Laurel on this next question, and then we'll go to Kevin after with the same question. And I want to talk about the role that, continuing to be a learner, being a willing learner, never stopping, reading, being the student, learning new things, learning from other mentors. That's a big piece of being a mentor, right, is being a continual learner. So talk a little about, Laurel, the role that education, plays in your world. I know you educate so many others, but how do you stay educated yourself? And I guess that's really the question, right? Talk about the role that education for you at this point in your career. And then Kevin, same question for you, the role that education plays, maybe where you get your education or who you listen to, who your mentors are. Talk about the role that plays in your life and business.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. I think that the role education, I would say most of us up here on the stage, are committed learners. So I won't speak for all of us. For myself personally, I've had mentors since I was 17 years old. I walked into a bank in Nebraska, and I asked the bank president to mentor me, and he looked at me and he said, you can't afford me and I don't do this. And anyway, he's still a lifelong friend. So I seek education where I think that I need to grow, right? So places that, especially being the millionaire mentor, having places in this money conversation is so vast. So from digital currency to cannabis, who's best in class? Just found somebody yesterday who's developing the most interesting technology in the cannabis space. So I seek places that I know I need to, I'm going to say, stay in front of my client base, my mentees, and side by side. So I find places where I want to, like right now in real estate, it's been for years, but a lot of people are finally paying attention to opportunity zones. And so I'm seeking, who's best in class for that. And to your part, Mark, which I love that you brought that up, is don't hire who you can afford. I think that is such a classic mistake. So I don't care how much they are or where they live. There's no limitation on getting somewhere on the planet, on where you want to be. There was a topic years ago that I wanted, and the gentleman that I approached to mentor me about it, he's again, I don't do this. So I just want to speak to that, because when somebody says they don't do it, it's because they don't have a structure or a system to do it. So coach them into it. So I spoke with he and his wife about what it would look like and how I would come to them, and I'm not going to bother them. I pay them. They're like, we don't want your money. We're billionaires. And I said, I know, but this one topic I really want to know. And so she got it, and she said, well, if you're open and flexible, we will let you know when he has 4 hours somewhere. So they called me from Singapore, from the American Airline VIP lounge and said, we're here for 24 hours or however many hours. It was enough hours for me to get on a plane from San Francisco, get to Singapore, spend 4 hours with them, and fly back home. So you talk about seeking education. I find the gaps of what I think that I need to learn, and then the secondary piece that I also want to just really emphasize is masterminding with people that are in your peers. So having and being very open to allow people to identify your blind spots. And then from there, seeking that education. So I think there's peer mentoring and then seeking the open spots of where you need to excel and learn and be wide open from price tag to travel to expectation. Yes is the answer, and you figure it out.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned masterminds too. That's such a huge piece for me in learning and developing and growing, is surrounding myself with the right people. And sometimes that means, joining the right groups, joining the right communities, whether it's earning your way in, paying your way in, coming in by association, whatever it is. But whatever you've got to do to get around the right kind of people, that's the quickest hack, right? That normalizes so many things that you didn't believe were possible. If you surround yourself with 20, 30, 100 people that are doing it, it becomes very easy to believe at that point. So
Matt, you just stole my answer.
Well, Kevin, I just introed your answer, man. And Kevin and I are in a mastermind together. We actually help run a mastermind together called Board of Advisors. And that's just one of many groups that Kevin is a part of and that I'm a part of. So Kevin, I just introed you, man. Take us that direction. Go for it.
The Board of Advisors, Mike Calhoun, an amazing group, 150 people. We meet quarterly, but I do deals weekly with the folks that are in Board of Advisors. But that's just one. There's obviously Joe Polish's Genius Network. I've been involved with Joe for many, many years, and War Room with Roland and Perry and the boys. You go into some of these, like I started in the TV world. I'm an old media guy, television, radio, newspaper. You want to learn about digital marketing, the War Room guys are brilliant. And Board of Advisors has some of the same levels of talent there. But, so for somebody like myself, paying to belong to these, I spend probably $200,000 a year belonging to different mentorship groups and masterminds. And so you have to pay to play, and you get amazing contacts. And beyond that, if we tracked what we spent to be in these groups and the revenues that were generated from relationships and partnerships and all of that, Joe Polish, I think, says, give him $25,000, he'll guarantee you $250 back or something like that. But I know you have to be present, you have to attend, you got to be a participant and make the networkings, the parties and the get-togethers. But there's a little bit of social, but bottom line is that it's very tight on getting a lot of great information and knowledge and seeing who the movers and shakers are in those industries.
Hey, Kevin, I'm going to throw in one more, Matt, just real fast, and that
go
is
for it. Yeah, no.
One thing I want to say: people ask me all the time how to get a mentor and what kind of mentor. All kinds of questions around mentors. And on the topic of this question, there's one thing that I want to make sure everybody hears loud and clear, and that is never get a mentor that's not being mentored. You want to have mentors that are lifelong learners. Kevin is a lifelong learner. I've spent years with Kevin, and he has mentors. Laurel has mentors. Laura has mentors. Kimmy has mentors. Brian has mentors. Brad has mentors. Every person on the stage has mentors. And so that is one of the key hallmarks of a great mentor, is they're being mentored because they understand the value of being a lifelong learner.
I love that. It's absolutely right. And I love what Kevin said. And also, War Room, you were saying, Kevin, those are the guys that understand digital marketing and funnel building. They definitely are. And, I've taken a couple of giant leaps in my business life. And I can kind of source it back to two different groups. One was in my real estate investing world, and that was with a group called Collective Genius, where it took me up to the next level to see 100 other businesses that did what I did in some way, shape, or form. Some of them not as good, some of them way better, and to get snapshots of businesses like that. And the other one was War Room. And that's when I learned digital marketing and really learned what marketing and direct response and what true copywriting was when I joined that group. And I'm actually going to be speaking at War Room in about 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, I'm going to be out in Vegas with them. So excited about that. But it is all about getting with those right people. And so a mastermind gives you a format to where it brings a lot of those people together. Sometimes they're industry specific. Sometimes they're not, like some of the ones Kevin mentioned, have lots of different types of business, but there's also very niche specific groups. So that is a great, I don't want to call it a hack. It's a way to cut the learning curve down tremendously. It's almost like group mentorship in a way. And it's amazing, the mastermind concept. So absolutely love it. So I'd like to go to at least one other member of our panel and just hear from somebody else about the role of education, being a continual learner. Always being curious and trying to seek out new information, new relationships that can open up new ideas. Somebody on the panel that wants to chime in, go for it.
Dr. Connor here,
Let's go Dr. Connor and then Brian and Brad I saw. So we'll go Dr. Connor, Brian, then Brad. Go for it.
Yeah, I love the way you just said that you have to be a continual learner, because if we look back to when we were children, and despite, we mightn't have enjoyed the school going days or whatever, and we might have questioned what we were actually asked to learn or how we were asked to learn it, if it was a memorization test for exams or whatever else. But the reality is our brains wants to learn. Our brains wants to be active. Our brain wants to be curious. And too many of us, and so many of us, we kind of hit like 20, 25 or whatever, and we get into a job or we just get, caught, and we're just like, okay, and we get into this like 9 to 5 routine, Monday to Friday, weekends are best. And then suddenly it's like, what do I do after 3, 4, 5, 10 years? You hit 30, 35, you want to get married or you're expected to be married. And then you're hit with big, fees for mortgages or paying cars or childcare fees and all this kind of stuff. And then you realize, oops, I don't have the money. But your brain has been wired to be like electricity, to just flow and go quickly. And it wants information. And you can do that throughout your lifetime, not just, so if you're like 30, 40 or whatever, and you want to then say, hey, I'm going to just jack in this job. I'm going to do something. I'm going to become an entrepreneur, all this kind of stuff. That's wonderful. But you can't just expect, like a muscle when you go to the gym, you can't just expect if you haven't trained it, if you haven't learned, if you haven't reached out. We spoke about mentors. If you haven't connected with people, these are all different areas of the brain. And it's medically classified here that you need to exercise this. So if you, like you said, mentors, connecting with people, these are the people that will help you. And everybody on the stage, as you say, mentors have mentors. And all of these people, the expertise they have and all the knowledge, they have continually wired their brain. So that there's so much going on. There's so many different thoughts. And that's why, which is fantastic, you can grow the room, run the room for hours and hours, days almost. And yet, anytime you pop into the room, there's different knowledge being, pushed over and back. So you need to connect, and we've all seen that in the last year, the disconnection that's going on. And connecting is so, so important to the human brain. So if you can't expect yourself to just press a button, I want to be a millionaire right now. Behind all the money is the people. And connection is vital. Your brain, this is what it wants. As I said, go back to the power of electricity. That's how quickly it loves the speed. It loves to exercise. So take the notes, but take action and connect with people. If there's people resonating on stage here, guys, that's what your brain loves. And that's how you learn. And that's how you get your mentors, your coaches, and everything else. I just want to drop that in, guys. Dr. Connor here.
I love that. Before we go to Brian real quick, I just wanted to welcome a couple other friends that we have on stage here. Jason Keys, good to see you. Vondre, glad you're here, buddy. Always good to be on stage with you. Susanna, William. Also, we have Dan Caldwell, somebody that I met here on Clubhouse, but have had the opportunity to jump in some meetings with him and really have enjoyed getting to know him. He is the co-founder of the Tap Out brand.